Okay.
You know.
Live.
I'm just like not at home, you know. It's like it's a little different for me.
Definitely.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the last meeting of the 2020 season. Quite an interesting season that we had. My name is Alyssa. I'm the club secretary. We don't have our president or our vice president with us this evening. They're both otherwise busy. So you've got me and you've got Mercedes. Mercedes is our newsletter editor, and we're very happy we have her for sure. We have a special speaker for you tonight that she'll introduce momentarily, but first we're going to go over some housekeeping items. First of all, thanks for joining. I'm glad that you're here. This will be available after the meeting as a recording anytime that you can view live on our, or not live, but on our YouTube channel. Members should have received an email that was a reminder of this meeting that had a survey in it. If you guys would kindly take the survey, it would your feedback would help us to improve stuff and figure out how we did this year. And it's just nice to have your general comments and feedback. So please check your email for the survey and take that. It's very short. It'll take you less than 5 minutes, probably. What else? You can renew your memberships now anytime for the 2021 season, which we hope will be much better, and no pandemic maybe next year, which would be nice. If the pandemic stuff continues, we will plan on broadcasting this way until we get the all clear. Although we hope to meet in person. March is a long ways away. So cross your fingers, everybody stay healthy, and we can hopefully resume our in-person meetings. We will still probably continue the live broadcast even when we're allowed to meet in person again, just because a lot of people find it to be convenient. So I think that's it. Membership renewals can be done on our website, of course. And if you have any questions, you can always email me at info@pikespeakmike.org. But I will introduce Mercedes to you, our newsletter editor. Let her take the floor.
Hey everyone, I'm Mercedes Perez Whitman, and my pronouns are she, her, and they, them. This month's newsletter is a bit behind schedule, and we are still looking for submissions. So if you'd like to contribute, you can send your contribution to editor@pikespeakmike.org. And we should have that out sometime by the end of the month, and then resume newsletters alongside our season in March. I also want to start off by acknowledging that we're on stolen land. Colorado Springs is located on the unceded territory of the Ute peoples, and the Pikes Peak region has also been home to the Arapaho, Apache, Cheyenne, and Comanche peoples. We are honored to have Olga Tzogas with us tonight to give a talk called The Love and Power of Medicinal Mushrooms. I'll start off by reading a short bio. Olga created and operates Smugtown Mushrooms in what is called Rochester, New York. Her journey with fungi and plants started over 10 years ago, and she has been with these allies by foraging in both urban and more wild settings and developing skills to identify for food and medicine. In 2011, Smugtown Mushrooms was established due to a need for mushrooms and growing supplies, workshops, events, and community-based science in her area. She continues to be learning more and embracing the never-ending, unlocked potential of mushrooms and fungi. Olga teaches workshops throughout the world about wild mushroom identification, medicinal mushrooms, biology, and mushroom cultivation. She was a core organizer for the 2016 Radical Mycology Convergence and the Mycosymbiotics Festival from 2015 to 2017, and helped establish the first ever New Moon Mycology Summit in 2018. Olga returns annually to offer mushrooms and plants mushroom and plant focused tours with her ancestral home of Greece. So Olga, thank you so much for being here, and
Thanks
I will
for
let you
having
take it
me.
away. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Also, Olga is a good friend, and yeah, just dear mycophile. Really appreciate her in my life.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I know we tried to do this back in mid-March, and I'm glad that we finally came together to make this happen. I'm going to share my screen. Yeah, 1 second. And then, yeah. So thanks for having me, everyone. If there's like questions I can answer throughout the way. Yeah, my name is Olga. I run Smugtown Mushrooms in Rochester. Thanks for that beautiful intro, Mercedes, and really great to be here. I wish I was in Colorado, just saying, but hopefully a visit when all this stuff blows over. Yeah, here we have a beautiful picture of some lion's mane mushroom growing on some old beech, which is a common tree that we have here in the Northeast. So I live in upstate New York, and our bioregion is like the Great Lakes bioregion, and we have beautiful mixed wood forests with lots of deciduous and conifer, and it's just really lovely. And you know, my experience and my relationship with medicinal mushrooms is definitely based more on personal experience and experience with others, and none of this is FDA approved. So, you know, just take it as it comes and work with what you have available to you. And if people have questions about, you know, the medicinal properties of things, we can definitely go into it as we move forward. So thanks for being here. Here, you know, I always just like to start with like beautiful photos. Here we have a beautiful photo of some cultivated reishi. This is down in my friend's farm in Philadelphia, but this is our strain. Actually, this is the Rochester reishi. Beautiful, prolific mushroom culture that I love dearly. Yeah, just some of my favorite mushrooms. Some more reishi, the Ganoderma growing on hemlock, the eastern hemlock, and then we have the violet tooth polypore, or the Trichaptum biforme. It could also be Trichaptum aviatum if it's growing on like a fir or a conifer, which is a very underutilized medicinal mushroom, in my opinion, and pretty common, and has like similar properties as the turkey tail. Now that we're getting a little bit colder months here, we're starting to see late fall and early winter mushrooms in our bioregion. We have beautiful enokis popping up soon. These are edible and medicinal mushrooms, or the Flammulina velutipes. And then tragically, you know, around the same time, we do have like deadly lookalikes. And I do believe that y'all have enokis and gallerinas growing in your region as well. Let me know if you don't or do. But yeah, they have really similar ecosystems. They're both growing on wood. I tend to see enokis actually growing on older, more mature grapevines actually in the woods, which is cool. And gallerinas tend to grow on different kinds of fallen and extremely rotten wood in rich woods. So next slide here. So thank you all for being here. We're all here because we're fighting fungophobia, and we want to learn and explore the beautiful world and diversity of the mushroom kingdom and queendom. And thanks for doing that. Mushrooms are amazing, and it's okay to touch them. in order for us to be poisoned from them, we have to ingest them. So we do want to make sure that when we're gathering for the table or for medicine, we're getting positive IDs and with the help of our local mushroom society. And yeah, they're just amazing organisms. And I love building relationship with them. And we have beautiful relationship with them for millennia upon millennia. They're our ancestors. They're closer genetically to us than they are to plants. They breathe oxygen like we do. They consume food versus being producers like plants. They have to eat. So we have a couple things in common and more things as well as we go along. I'm really into just old vintage mushroom art. This is just a drawing of some deadly poisonous mushrooms, most of them being amanitas, some of them also being the gyromitras, which are the false morels. Here we have the Amanita phalloides, which is the death cap, which is a deadly poisonous mushroom that grows. Now I'm thinking I think it grows all over the country now, but I think the first finding was actually reported here in Rochester, New York at Duran Eastman Park, which is cool. Yeah, and fungi are amazing organisms. They feed on dead organic matter. They produce spores. They don't have chlorophyll like plants do. They are everywhere from our forests to our feet. They take on many forms like yeast, single cell forms of fungi like yeast, and many different kinds of sexual reproduction, and they're just amazing. Yeah, there's a dog right here. I don't know if y'all can see the dog. Yeah, so here we have more amanitas, like to show those. Just like basic classic, mushroom life cycle. This is really the life cycle of just like one group of fungi, the Basidiomycota, or a lot of fleshy fungi, but a lot of our medicinal mushrooms have a reproductive cycle like this, where we have the fruiting body. In this case, it's the amanita, but it could be a shell fungus or something like the reishi, and that fruiting body releases its spores. Those spores germinate, and they have single filamentous strands of cell called hyphae that extend into the universe and find a mate. They release these pheromones and they find a mate, and they have a sexually reproductive cycle where now they have all the genetic information. They become mycelium, the cells divide, those mycelial mats become thicker, and with the right amount of food and the different cycles of the seasons, that mycelium starts to fruit. That fruit matures and it releases spores, and the cycle continues. Sorry for the animals in the background here. Yeah, stop me if people have questions. But essentially the mycelium is doing all the work, the mycelium underneath the soil or within the tree or wherever it might be, that mycelium is doing all the work and is digesting and secreting enzymes, breaking down that dead organic matter for it to ingest. So how fungi ingest their food is that they secrete their digestive enzymes externally through their cells, and then they ingest their food, versus like us, we ingest our food and then we digest it afterwards. So we're kind of working in the opposite way. And just like we were saying before, they are consumers. They eat their food versus making their food like plants. Let me know if these dogs are making it impossible for y'all to hear. Yeah, and the mycelium is awesome. Different fungi have different morphologies in their mycelial growth. Here we have tiny lycoperdons, or like the tiny puff balls that grow on mulch and really rotten logs and things like that. They can be more stringy. The previous photo was of the wine cap Stropharia, Stropharia robusta unalata. They have very rhizomorphic mycelium. And then, when we see mushrooms growing out of like rotten trees or dying trees, that we see the mycelium inside that fallen log or popping out of asphalt, like we see here, this shaggy mane growing right out of the road, because they don't care. They're resilient and they'll do what they want. Here we go. We have some beautiful mushrooms, the Phomys fomitarius, growing out of some black birch, as well as a lion's mane or hericium growing out of black birch as well. That mycelium is just decomposing and eating some type of, food within that tree, and it's expressing and, releasing a fruiting body through that log and dying tree. And in a cultivation setting, we have our substrate, our straw in this instance in this bag. I'm gonna shut this door real quick, sorry. Willow, stop, please. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so here we have a bag of substrate, and that we've included spawn, and that spawn has been sitting in that bag for about like 5 days, and it's starting to myceliate and eat the substrate that we've introduced, which is the straw. And after a few more days, maybe like 5 to 10 days after, that mycelium has eaten all the substrate, and it's starting to send out primordia or pinning of the mushrooms. And from the primordia to, the last photo is maybe a few days, and we are enjoying some beautiful fresh oyster mushrooms. Yeah, so a lot of our medicinal mushrooms vary in their ecological roles. So a lot of our mushrooms when we think about medicinal mushrooms, like, I don't just think of just reishi or chaga. It's also a lot of our classic edibles, and our let food be thy medicine. I can't remember who said that, but someone said that a long time ago. So there's also different ecological roles that are happening, and we're going to learn about them a little bit as well. So we have some beautiful lion's mane here growing on beech. Here in eastern the United States, lion's mane, as well as some other mushrooms that we'll see later, they're decomposing. So that's what they're doing in their ecological role. That's, they're taking dead organic matter, returning those nutrients back to the soil for plants to use, breaking down lignin, cellulose, making homes for birds and other wildlife. And if we didn't have them, we'd be miles deep in detritus, dead organic matter. Here we have a picture of freshly fallen log, first year, massive flush of oyster mushrooms. They're our primary decomposers, and they're some of our first fungi to show up. And eventually other secondary, tertiary decomposers come through. Some fungi are either doing a brown rot or a white rot, depending on what their appetite is. They either want to eat the lignin or they eat the cellulose. Some fungi can do both, but we can see kind of what they're doing in the field when there's a fallen log and that remaining wood is looking more like cubic and puzzle-like. Essentially, the cellulose was eaten and the lignin has been left over. So it's just really cool. It's really cool to be able to kind of differentiate. Some more decomposers, we have the brick caps, the hyphalomas, foliotas. Even in this photo, we have some turkey tail in the background there. Classic tinder conch, the Phomys fomitarius, or the amadou. This is in North America here, this picture that's more narrow and blue. And then this photo here is from Greece, where I noticed that the Phomys fomitarius is way more concave and versus cylindrical, as in the North American species. But it's really cool. Yeah, our Trametes, our turkey tail, we're gonna be talking about turkey tail, the Ganoderma, applanatum, beautiful perennial fungus. Here we have the pheasant's back. So y'all in Colorado, y'all get this mushroom in August. We get this mushroom here in May. But it's amazing and delicious, and people make really good food with it. Y'all call it like the pheasant's back. And then like the flame and the box elder, beautiful decomposing fungi, making beautiful spalted wood. The stropharia, beautiful wine cap, the garden giant, flush and beautiful, more shaggy manes popping out of the side of the road, decomposing. And then even, a lot of our mycorrhizal fungi have medicinal benefits, and in general are like medicinal because of the way that they interact with our forest. So they might not be medicine for us, but it's definitely medicine for the whole ecosystem. And, older, more mature forests tend to have larger and beautiful, healthier mycorrhizal fungi. And yeah, they're amazing. So mycorrhizae are fungi that live within the root systems of plants. About 80% of all plants have some type of mycorrhizal partnership. That mycorrhizae are basically exchanging sugar for nutrients that they're getting from the external environment that the tree or the plant otherwise would not be able to get. And fungi are just basically sugar addicts, like we all are. And some of my favorite fungi are mycorrhizal mushrooms, like the Amanita family in its entirety. I think they're gorgeous fungi, beautiful, terrestrial, growing from the ground. These are Amanitas that have associations with eastern hardwoods, of the Amanita citrina here, and then the Gesawai that can grow under oak, but definitely tends to grow under conifer and white pine specifically. This is Amanita rubescens, or Amera rubescens, I believe is the new name. A lot of these names are probably older, so forgive me because I don't know newer names. The beautiful Amanita muscaria. This is my experiment that I didn't really mean to do, but basically we had some Amanita Gesawai, left it out overnight, and woke up and there was dozens and dozens of dead soldier flies. So legit, that fly agaric is working, and we've would put these in our greenhouses and stuff like that when we would see them throughout the season, and it works even without the milk, because sometimes they say do that for milk. But I was actually going back to this Amanita. I was talking with Samantha F., who runs, I can't even remember, but they're out of Maryland, and they were just eating the Amanita muscaria and Gesawai, and that people have been using it in salves for pain. So I'm actually going to try that. So that's something new that I'm going to be doing with Amanitas. Yeah, just some more beautiful Amanita jacksoni, which is like an eastern, it might even grow where y'all are, I don't know, but yeah, it's an eastern hardwood Amanita that's actually edible. Beautiful boletus. Greeks tend to say that porcini is a cure-all for any hangover. So yeah, I don't know if that's a thing. I know y'all get a lot of porcini relatives up there as well. Yeah, and porcinis, they have the tubes, the boletus family. This is like a cross section of the cap there. They're beautiful. Chanterelles also have been, studied for medicinal properties. They've been studied for eye health, actually, and seeing a lot of improvements in people with degenerative eye diseases. Yeah, just more mycorrhizae, the beautiful black trumpets, lactarius, just loving mushrooms, and their medicine all around. Parasitic fungi that we tend to see in the wild, and that do have medicinal properties. That their ecological role is that they're parasites, but essentially they're taking down older trees and once thought to be a problem, but like essentially, you know, we don't know anything, and, you know, nature knows best. And it's really more of a problem for like for-profit logging and things like that. And, you know, maybe, you know, having a rotten tree by your house isn't the best, but all part of life, and, you know, basically creates habitat for critters and things like that. But yeah, some of my favorite and most delicious edibles and medicinals are parasitic fungi, the chicken of the woods, Latiparus, sulphureus, and its kin, essentially. It's been studied as anti-MRSA therapy, as well as just like a natural antibiotic and immunosupporter. Beautiful, growing on variety of different trees, living or dying or stumps, coast to coast. Folks tend to not want to eat it if it's growing on hardwood or growing on softwoods or conifer. This is the maitake. We're kind of at the end of our maitake season, and I know that y'all don't have too much access to maitake besides cultivated out in Colorado, but if my memory is certain, there's only been maitake found like 3 times, like west of the Mississippi, and or like, you know, west of the plains, and I think twice has been in Colorado. So just saying, it's possible, but this is a beautiful flush of a wild maitake, or, you know, hen of the wood, or Grifola frondosa, which is a medicinal. We'll talk about it a little bit more in depth later, but it's growing from a beautiful old growth oak. And this picture is from Pennsylvania. So beautiful. Chaga, yeah, just very hip and well-known. Medicinal, loves to grow on on birch trees, on betula. This is a beautiful, probably 10-year-old piece of chaga, if not more, growing on a black birch in upstate New York. Yeah, filled with amazing medicine and melanin, and just lots of immunosupporting compounds and anti-inflammatory compounds, and yeah, really tastes really good too. But yeah, kind of like, in my opinion, being threatened by over harvesting, because like it really, you can't, you know, it can be grown, but it's only like grown in a mycelial state. You're not going to get this like black, beautiful, sterile conch. It's, yeah, that's not possible. So kind of, I question companies that their whole drive is like, we offer like chaga all the time. Yeah, it's kind of intense, but okay. And then, yeah, so this is like a chaga lookalike that isn't birch, and it's not chaga, and probably going to make you sick. So we want to make sure we're definitely harvesting chaga from birch, and it is an Anotis obliquus. The honey mushrooms, another parasite, also having medicinal properties related to eyesight, also having antibiotic properties. They're complex, there's many different species, and it is said that the mycelium of a single organism of honey mushroom is the largest living organism on the planet. That it's just like giant and ancient and spreading, and you can see the dead zone that it's creating from space, which is interesting. And lichens, we have to pay a little homage to them because they are like the precursors of all life, and they are part fungi, and they have medicinal properties and filled with a lot of amazing medicine and lore as well. Lichens are a beautiful symbiotic relationship, or some type of relationship, because I think that relationship can be questionable if it's symbiotic or not symbiotic. But it's basically between a fungus and a photosynthetic microorganism, or cyanobacteria, or something that has chlorophyll. They're living together, and they make beautiful fruits, or I don't even know the terminology, but they're just amazing, and they live on rock, or they can live in they're living all over the world on every continent. And some of my favorite medicine on the planet that has helped me in my life, that I would be, sick every year if it wasn't for usnea, but this is like a medicinal lichen that has really helped me in my life, and people have been using this medicine for thousands of years as well. So I just had to pay homage to it. But yeah, how are we on time? I just want to make sure we're good. Okay, I'm like going faster than I thought I was, but okay, that's fine. Yeah, do we have questions? I see a flash. Okay, we're good. All right, you're just telling me we're good. Okay. So this is my dog Lucy. She's posing like a pro in front of a beautiful Ganoderma tsugae, or the hemlock reishi that grows here in the eastern seaboard. Yeah, we're like diving in. We got beautiful medicinal mushrooms. Medicinal mushrooms have been written about for at least 5,000 years, if not more. We take penicillin for granted. It's molds that revolutionize antibiotics. There's hundreds of different mushrooms that have been written about and explored to be studied for their medicinal therapy. America's kind of still in the dark ages when it's coming to terms with the sense of studying alternative therapies, but other countries are like leading the way. And as we're going to talk about later, there's just basically countries that have been for decades now, like synergistically using traditional therapies alongside Eastern or Western therapies, and chemos and things like that. And we're going to just kind of talk about like sustainability and stuff like that as we move forward. So click. Okay, there we go. So yeah, and like medicinal mushrooms are just kind of like really trending right now, and mushrooms are really trending right now. And I definitely want folks to feel like, no matter where you're getting your medicine, like as long as you're feeling good about it, and the point is for folks to feel better and to have autonomous control over their bodies, and be able to help themselves and help others. And that's kind of how I got into this in general. I really wanted to know what's gonna heal me, or what's gonna, and that's a bad word to use because they don't like you to use that word, but what's gonna help me, or what's going to what microorganisms. So I'm kind of a biodork, and I like studying microbes and learning what they do, but then learning how some plants and some mushrooms can really effectively eradicate that within our bodies, or on a petri dish, or wherever, and I just really like that concept. So I got into this, and as I learned about fungi, I was really into just getting brand name stuff. But then, realizing that the more our community is growing and people are making specialty products, and it's I prefer to get my medicine from small growers, from independent medicine makers, and people making small batches and things like that. But if you only have access to, something that's maybe at a Whole Foods or whatever, that's totally good too, or an Asian supermarket, but definitely we like to tell people to try to get US grown mushrooms, and to maybe even question things that say US grown, because a lot of times that things can say US grown, but they're actually fruited here and maybe grown in other countries and brought here. So there's a lot of companies not telling the full story. there's a lot of companies that like charge you a lot of money and tell you that there's mushrooms in it, and it's actually just mycelium. So there's a lot of literacy that I think that needs to like, grow as we like get into medicinal mushrooms and people, and that trend starts to like, intensify more, because like, especially now, like with pandemia, like we're like, yeah, we're trying to like be healthier and, stay out of the doctor's office just in case like we need, other folks need to be in there and like keeping our like loved ones like healthy and secure. So it's like making sure we have access to this stuff is really important too. So yeah, let's get the good stuff. And if we are fortunate enough to live in an area where we can like grow this medicine or harvest this medicine, that's amazing. And, if folks have any questions about like, any sustainability stuff or, things like that after, we can talk about that too. Okay. So yeah, some beautiful reishi. These are some homegrown reishi from like, this is our Rochester reishi. And yeah, here we go. Yes. So, okay. So even like oyster mushrooms. So a lot of times, and I'm going to like talk about this later too, but it's like, I really tell people like, if you can like just eat the mushroom, because that's like the best place and way to get the medicine and like all the active constituents and everything together, because it's like, it's whole foods. We're getting everything the way that we're supposed to eat it, the way we're supposed to be getting it. With all mushrooms, we want to cook the mushrooms as well as these oysters, the white buttons, like the maitake, the enokis, like these are mushrooms, like all mushrooms need to be heated and cooked. Pleurotus species, oyster mushrooms, they're, decomposers. They're even considered carnivorous because they're like hardcore anti-nematode action. They like, there's crazy YouTube videos of like the mycelium of oyster mushrooms lassoing nematodes. And so their medicine to maybe even implement into soil practices if like we have nematode problems and for agriculture and things like that. And with like many mushrooms, they have strong anti-inflammatory properties. They've been synthesized and, basically through oyster mushrooms and other mushrooms and plants, levastin, which is a family of pharmaceutical therapies, was synthesized from oysters, which is an interesting little factoid. And they have like, antibacterial properties. So like, but maybe not as strong as like, definitely not as strong as like reishi or maitake, but, they definitely withstand rot, which essentially is bacteria and fungi and other things attacking something. They withstand rot pretty well. And they're beautiful. So we have like blue and white elm oysters here in this picture. And then, some beautiful golden oysters and some elm oysters. And yeah, oysters are really great. You can basically grow them with like you can grow them with water and then the substrate, and it's just easy. And they get really big really quickly. So this is like, I think, the day before this picture was taken. So yeah, they do their thing. So yeah, polypore mushrooms, which are a huge group of fungi, and most of them are decomposers, are a big group of mushrooms that are medicinal, and we'll see a lot of them. We'll be talking about a lot of them. None are lethal, but of course, since I did update this, like there is one poisonous polypore now, but I don't think it's in North America, and I forgot to look it up. So bear with me on that one. But some of my favorite and most famous polypores that are like medicinal and edible are reishi, turkey tail, maitake, and they're just like known to be amazing. And we've used them for a really long time for their medicine, for their art, for their staining, their abundance, for their food, their tinder. They've just helped us throughout our entire human existence. And yeah, there's a lot to say about them, and we will a little bit. And here's Fomes fomitarius, the tinder conker, the Amadou, again, just being awesome. And even though this is considered the tinder conch, the true tinder conch is more like the chaga or the birch polypore, because in theory, the Fomes fomitarius has to be processed in some way for it to be a tinder, but it's still great. It's still great and still used in smoldering and things like that, and has been used in moxa. So if people are familiar with moxa, it's like a needleless acupuncture, and people and indigenous peoples here from Turtle Island have used it as well in medicine. And yeah, just beautiful Amadou, beautiful mushroom, as well as beautiful art like this turkey tail, and then we have this like etching into the artist conch, the Ganoderma applanatum, more polypore action. This is my friend Willoughby's like music transmitter noise thing that he like connected to different pedals and to an 8-track, and he does performances like different fungal biocentric performances, and yeah, that works. So we can use medicinal polypores, because this is a reishi, for things beyond just teas and extractions, but also musical extractions. And he kind of, I don't think you can tell, but like this section where most of the stuff is like going in was scratched out by a bear. So he harvested it and it was like on the ground, like scratched bear. So he like, this musical instrument has been made by several species here. And Willoughby is an incredible performer and mycologist and overall incredible human being. And he is now a recent author of a great cultivation book that I suggest called DIY Mushroom Cultivation. And I wish I had that book 10 years ago, because I would have saved a lot of money and probably wouldn't have gotten a giant autoclave, but that's not here or there. All right, next slide. Yeah, beautiful. Here is, and forgive, I don't have the Latin name or a name for this mushroom written down, but this is a polypore mushroom that we have been using for millennia, probably, for medicine and for dyeing. So this is Phaeolus schwannetzii, growing on conifer, or like dyeing root systems of conifers and pines. This has, depending on the mordant, has a spectrum of different colors that it releases to different fibers. And beautiful Ichnoderma polypore, that's, this is common right now in the Northeast, and it has like really beautiful morphology and beautiful like guttation, and it's really resinous, and people have been eating this more than I've been realizing, but I have not eaten it. The maitake, another polypore. This is, it's just a beautiful, maitake is a blessing, and we get really large ones here. And that was a big one that I found ages ago. But let's talk about some medicinal mushrooms. Our reishi, the Ganoderma lucidum, or the Ganoderma suge, or agensi, or curtusii, depending on which species, there's definitely different medicinal properties, but like, I want to say like reishi, all reishi has medicinal properties. I will reiterate, I am not an expert. This is just based on experience from reading and living, and not FDA approved, everything in moderation. If you're interested in ingesting anything, take it in small doses, and monitor and trust yourself and consult with friends and family and other people as well. So, but anyways, yeah, we have the reishi or the lingza. This has definitely been written about for at least 4 millennia. In TCM or traditional Chinese medicine, this mushroom is considered a Shen herb, which is translates to spirit herb. It's a nervous system herb. It is an adaptogen. It calms the nervous system. It's a mild muscle relaxant. It's considered warming and astringent, drying, detoxifying and tonifying to the liver, to the lung meridian, good for the heart. And it has really strong antibiotic properties. It's an immunomodulant, hepatoprotectant, helping with the liver, and having anti-tumor properties as well. Reishi is an annual polypore. So versus some polypores will kind of go dormant and then grow again from that same fruiting body, but just get bigger. The reishi grows a fresh fruiting body every year. And it's just a stunning, beautiful mushroom to find in the woods or to cultivate. It has this lacquer here in North America. They call it the varnish conch. And it's pretty woody, so we're not, and it's very bitter. We're not necessarily like eating this for dinner, but we're extracting it, making teas, tinctures, salves. You know, it can be used in many ways. Reishi has the triterpenes. These are some of the biological, like biochemical properties that that reishi is composed of that have the medicinal properties that help us essentially. And reishi, and I do have friends that, you know, were really serious with the, you know, trying to figure out what they're doing with their allergies, but reishi is really strong antihistamine behavior. And I know folks that were actually chewing it, like almost using it like a tobacco like chew, to kind of like always have it in their system because they just had terrible allergies. But, you know, not everything is for everyone and everyone is different. And, you know, if you're on blood thinners or different immunosuppressants because maybe you've had a transplant, you know, certain mushrooms on a larger dose or on a level where you're, you know, using this every day, it's maybe, you know, maybe just not like, oh, I just have reishi tea every once in a while, or, you know, it's in some soup stock here and there. You know, that's fine, but prolonged use and things like that, we really want to make sure that we're not compromising maybe some medication that we're already on. So we want to be careful and things like that. One of my other favorite mushrooms, so I do have a lot of favorite mushrooms, okay, but it's okay, is the head of the woods, the maitake mushroom, Grifola frondosa. We just have like passed the, you know, we might find some, but it's about to get frosty here. But yeah, maitake season was beautiful this year. We find the maitakes here under old oaks, sometimes different birch and beech as well, but usually under oaks. Maitake has been used in traditional Chinese medicine and other traditional medicines and aiding in stomach and spleen conditions. It's a fever reducer. It's a natural diuretic. It helps regulate insulin, strong anti-inflammatory. And, you know, this is a mushroom that I know people personally that they're giving to their dog, they're giving to their, you know, to people undergoing chemo and things like that, because this is a really nice, gentle, like somatic, like really full body, gentle medicine that helps with compromising and stuff like that with people undergoing cancer treatment and things like that. But, still want to make sure, but maybe if someone's on hypoglycemic medication, so this is something that lowers your sugar, but if you're already on like sugar lowering medicine, we want to make sure we're not like doing that as well. But maitake is amazing, and I love eating it. It's a really delicious mushroom that we get to eat and we get to have medicinal benefits from. So go for it, eat it up. Here's the birch polypore. As its name is intending, it's it's a mushroom that grows on birch. It is now called Fomitopsis betulina, but it used to be called Pizziporus betulinus. It is a mushroom that we've been hanging out with for a long time, thousands of years. Otzi, the Iceman, was hanging with it. As we know that he was found in the Alps, and this was a mushroom that was on his leather strap that he was hanging with. Traditionally, we've been using this mushroom topically for infection, for pain. It is an antiseptic, mild analgesic. It helps with gastritis internally. It, in high doses, can kill intestinal parasites. I've used this for bandages. This dried and the pore surface exposed, the dried pore surface exposed can be a knife sharpener or, a blade sharpener. And when this is dried, it also is an amazing tinder and can be used to like calm bees, and is an incense in general and really smells lovely. And I like to cut this into strips. This is it growing beautifully on a paper birch. But and like in this photo here, I like to cut this into strips, and I dry them and then use them for bandages later. So I would hydrate it and then put it on the wound and then wrap it in gauze, and then that area, whether it's a burn or a bug bite or a scrape, or, you chopped off a piece of your skin or whatever, it's going to heal, it's going to be clean. It won't get infected. And it just lasts a long time. It's a really nice Band-Aid, natural Band-Aid. And it's actually a really potent chaga substitute and a little bit more of a sustainable medicine as well. My other favorite medicine that I love to use is the turkey tail, or the kawarataki. That's in Japanese, which translates to the mushroom that grows along the riverbank, which is beautiful. And I don't think our language is that sophisticated yet for that, but our turkey tail, or Trametes versicolor, is definitely the most well-studied medicinal mushroom out there. It's found all over the world, thankfully. It's common here in Turtle Island in North America. It's been used traditionally for thousands of years. In Mexico, it's put into soups as a food preservative. And used topically for ringworm and staph infections. Traditionally, it's used for coughs as a expectorant, clearing the chest, promotes growth of muscle and building cells. It's a fever reducer, strong anti-inflammatory, just clearing infection anywhere and everywhere that you want it to be honest. It is just a gift. Immunostimulating and modulating. Japan has been using Crestin, which is basically, I think the next slide, no, but okay, we'll just go back to that, sorry. Okay, Japan has been using Crestin, which is a synthesized derivative of turkey tail since the 80s, alongside chemotherapy. And their success rate and remission rate for cancer is way higher, because they haven't really abandoned their traditional medicines, and two, they're using them synergistically and having better results. And I love turkey tail. It's a mushroom that I travel with, either in tincture or dried, with any little tickle in the back of the throat, any like inkling that I'm getting sick, I just like go for it, take, dropperfuls of it. Because you just can't go wrong. It's like an amazing medicine. It's also a prebiotic. So it's good like to take like before you maybe eat or like in the morning and stuff, because it like helps with the gut. And even though it's like an antibiotic, it's still like the good biotic is happening. So that's great. Here's it growing in the wild, being gorgeous. And it's called versicolor because here we see, and it's like got gray tones and maybe a little bit of like maroon burgundy, but like, there's a lot of different colors. Like here's some growing in my garden, that's growing on birch, like, but it's blue and beautiful and growing with my strawberries. And then here's some that's growing in a greenhouse that's like almost black. So they're amazing. And the beta glucans, which are, these active polysaccharides. So that's kind of like one of the main things in all these medicinal mushrooms that they all have in common is like, there are a lot of, there's hundreds of biomolecules, but a lot of the biomolecules that exist in these mushrooms are these beta glucans, and these beta glucans, and especially in the turkey tail, polysaccharide crestin, PSK, and polysaccharide pectin are, taken from turkey tail, and they're combined with herbs, and they're just amazing. And we're seeing like really great results fighting hepatitis and herpes, that should say HPV, not HVP. HPV, they're immunostimulants. They're great for like general infections. We're seeing, not just chemotherapy, like radiation therapy, and like building strength and stamina and keeping folks like longevity. Like the longevity is like happening with the turkey tail. Another showstopper, medicinal, tasty treat of a mushroom is the lion's mane mushroom, the hericium. They're in a group of fungi, the teeth fungi or the tooth fungi, the hydnums. They produce their spores on little teeth instead of gills or in pores. This is an amazing mushroom in so many ways. It's fleshy, it's growing out of wood. It does that concept of like, we're hearing more on the concept of like, what you eat and like how, like what's going on in your gut, like is affecting your mental health. And like, we see that with the lion's mane, that like, it really, there's a lot of like, people pumping it up for its like brain health and like using it for like neuron and like, nervous system health, but like really what it's doing is actually nourishing the gut first. It's going into our gut, and it's it's reducing the inflammation. It's like making the system of our digestive system just like way more optimal, and in the basically connecting our blood and gut and brain sensors and just making everybody happy. And it's definitely more complex than these basic sentences, but just really fantastic mushroom. And definitely people seeing a lot of, especially in like early, preventative measures of like neurodegenerative disorders, building myelin sheaths and things like that. But I know folks that, young as like 21, having Crohn's disease and IBS, doctors being like, what, we're going to give you like a colostomy bag. We're going to like remove certain parts of your digestive tract, young people. And, they're like, oh, we're going to like see about that. And like eating lion's mane all the time, taking in tincture, taking it as much as they can, and helping and basically being able to like not go through with massive surgical procedures and kind of like resurrecting their digestive system Not everyone is the same, but just some testimonials there. Beautiful mushroom. It's easy to be cultivated on sawdust, as well as logs and totems. And then also, a very unsung hero, again, like the shiitake mushroom, delicious, easily accessible mushroom that, is cheap and you can get it really anywhere. And it is so good for you. Really just high protein content, good amount of, just trace minerals and overall like vitamins and things like that. But having really strong antiviral properties, immunomodulating and liver protecting properties. Shiitake is just delicious and I love it. Stamets says that 15% of all the population has some type of dermatitis or reaction from eating shiitake raw or too frequently. But, like with everything, we want to, or like all of our mushrooms, we want to cook them or make sure that we're like simmering them or, extracting it with heat, essentially. Here we have a beautiful shiitake yard, growing shiitakes out of logs because that is possible and it's amazing and people have been doing it for a long time, thankfully. And then here we have like some kits. These are like the shiitake blocks from us and then some beautiful freshly harvested shiitakes from outside as well. Tasty. And then that's my dog Lucy, who is also medicine, and animals and plants and all the buddies outside are medicine as well. I'm trying to put this like reishi around her like a mane, but she wasn't having it. But just like basic ways to get like what we want from the mushrooms that we are, in relationship with. So, like I mentioned earlier, like I think food is the best way. Like if we can eat our lion's mane or if we can, get maybe some our, maitake in and different, medicinals like in our food, that's like a great way, for sure. But, sometimes it's nice to be able to have something more shelf stable or on the go or in, if like you're a big tea person or, just looking for different ways to extract the medicinal and beneficial constituents from these mushrooms. That's amazing. I really like teas or infusions, slow, maybe, just maybe like 20 to 30-minute steeps in hot or cold water. Different mushrooms can tolerate that. So like basically like, depending on the mushroom is like, which one are we going to do? So we're not going to really eat chaga and we're not really going to eat like, maybe phalinus and tinder conch or amadou because they're as hard as wood. And even if we did want to ingest it like that, it's maybe not the way to do it. So like we would maybe put it in like an infusion in a tea and like simmer it for like 30 minutes, or maybe we would put it in a longer decoction and simmer it for 2 days, or we'll put it in tincture, or we'll put it in honey, or we'll put it in salves, something where it can be extracted over a long period of time and we can use it in a shelf stable situation. Or like we might have like lion's mane, where maybe we find a lot or we buy a bunch at the market and we save some for dinner, and then we're going to dry some that we're going to like put in and make ice cubes out of and extract it in cold water and then save those to put into smoothies or into broth later, and different applications. And if we are going to use like tincture, if we're going to use tincture to extract the medicine, the alcohol content might not need to be as high for certain mushrooms as they are for maybe like reishi. Okay, reishi, and to get the triterpenes out, you need a higher percentage alcohol versus like lion's mane or more of a fleshy fungus. Like you don't need such high alcohol content. So there's just like different methods, and I do suggest learning more and talking to herbalists and people who have used this medicine more with experience. And the internet is also a great tool as well. And I personally tend to like eating the mushrooms. I tend to make tincture because I'm just more on the go and don't really have time for teas and things like that as much, but I do like honeys, and I have been experimenting more with like oils and salves for topical application for like antifungal, creams or antifungal oils or antibiotic salves and things like that, because as we know, a lot of mushrooms have antibiotic properties, and we might not always want to like put that stuff inside of us, but maybe topically we might need it like for a healing salve or something like that. And then oxymel, if I know we didn't really touch on that, but oxymels are basically using vinegar or some type of acid, or like apple cider vinegar or like lemon, that like acidic acid to extract, and then adding honey as well. And these are all ways to extract the medicine, and we can I can take questions on people if they have questions on ways to extract. And we're kind of wrapping it up here, but just a little reminder that mushrooms and fungi create life from death. They decompose and create food for plants to use. They have amazing remediative properties and capabilities, and they are medicine themselves, and they are just a gift, and we need to pay homage and continue working with them and loving them and sharing their mysticism. They are the great connectors. They are reminders that we are all part of something greater. They're connecting, that mycelium is connecting all life and all the critters. And here's some books that I dig. And, the one pictured is definitely a really great start on getting to know the medicinal properties of mushrooms by Robert Rogers. The Fungal Pharmacy is a really great guide. And he did just release a new book that's all clinical trials, and it's all, human clinical trials. That's his, I think that might even be the title, but he's great. And I do suggest his books. And Chris Hobbs's books on medicinal mushrooms are good, but I do feel like they're a little outdated. Paul Stamets' books are good. If you're into mycoremediation or learning how plants and mushrooms can heal the planet, our greater body on a macrocosm, Earth Repair is really great. These, I don't even know, I probably shouldn't have included this slide, but Cornell Mushrooms is a good website for fungi info. CornellFungi.com is cool too. That's the fungi department of Cornell. This is a little outdated, so forgive that slide. But, in fungi we trust. And this is me, Smugtail Mushrooms. If y'all do want to support me and maybe get some kits and things like that, you can find me at smugtailmushrooms.com or find me on Etsy. And I think the shipping is actually cheaper for Colorado if you go to my Etsy site. So just a little shameless self-promotion there at the end. And I think that's it. And I can leave it there. We can go back to the slide if people want. I don't know who's there. I can't tell. So how's it going?
Hello. Thank you
Hi.
so much, Olga. We have some viewers, and we do have a question from Alyssa.
Okay.
I'll start I can ask that. Can dogs be treated with any of these mushrooms? My girl started having seizures recently. She also has some arthritis and her back legs don't always work like they should.
Yeah, so I have some customers here in Rochester that have been giving their dog maitake tincture for like arthritic condition and for cancer. As far as like seizures and stuff, I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but like I would look into CBD and like ganj, you know, because I think that that has been successful in humans, and maybe would be helpful with our buddies in that department as well. But I'm not sure on seizures and stuff, but maybe lion's mane, you know, because it's like neurological, but I would, maybe I would research like CBD and cannabis
We've
for
got
the
her on.
seizure stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yeah.
that. Are they generally safe for animals in your experience?
Hold on, I can't hear you guys that well. I'm gonna try to put this louder. Uh-oh. I hope okay.
Are they generally safe for animals, the mushrooms?
So generally, yes, broad spectrum. So like cats can't ingest alcohol. So like we're not feeding tincture or alcohol tincture to cats internally. You can like do topical stuff, you know, if there's like a fungal or infection or something, because it'll fast dry anyways if it is alcohol and they're not probably going to lick it right away. But yeah, most mushrooms are pretty safe for like mammals, as far as I know, like dogs and cats. And definitely have seen a lot of, good success on, it's definitely dogs that have been diagnosed with cancer, that have been given like, 6 months or whatever, and they're going on like 4 years. And, just a little help there, but like, yeah, I definitely think like maitake and turkey tail, even like for us, are just like really general, like nice general preventative and overall like tonics for us and our other mammal friends.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question on the topic of sustainable growing.
Okay.
That's it. Do you see an economically sound plastic grow bag free future? That's like a
Oh, God.
I
don't know. I mean, I think it's like that concept of like, it's all a scam. There's no green energy and there's no biodegradable bag, period. I mean, I think that biodegradable bags, which they're marketing now, like it's kind of like that, like, that silverware, that green fork, and like that green fork, it's like, yeah, you can't put that in your compost pile, like, because it actually needs to be higher than a normal compost pile, like temperature wise, it's like high thermophilic type of critters, microbes that are going to break that down. Do I see it sustainable? I'm like talking in circles, maybe not exactly where we want to be with that, but I hope that like people that are really going to be like doing large scale stuff are just like going to be doing like the jars, and like the bottle methods, but I can't deal with how much plastic is involved. And I'm actually, looking to sell my mushroom cultivation facility right now. And one of the many reasons is, it's just like, I can't like deal with how much, plastic is involved. And even though we do try to like, use glass and other like reusable things, it's like, there's still a ton of plastic waste. And yeah, it's a little bit intense. And I don't know. I think like it's, yeah, there's a lot to be said about sustainable cultivation. And I'm really into the concept of like, let's grow stuff on logs, let's grow stuff on waste streams, you know, and there's definitely like ways to do it. And I know it's different for wherever we are. And, you know, are like the way that mushrooms can be sustainably grown here where I live is a different narrative for like how mushrooms can be sustainably grown like where you live, you know. So
Right.
it really depends on what we have access to, what the variants are and things like that. So, but plastic gotta go no matter what.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that's that is a growing topic conversation. I've seen some really cool, innovative ways of cultivating with plastic, like in buckets or something, but at least it's reusable. And yeah, the issue with these like biodegradable bags and yeah, like and things is that they need to go then to a commercial composting facility, which like costs money to
Yeah.
do. Um, very accessible, and it's I think not very desirable. The compost that comes from it isn't as like rich as compost coming from like kitchen scraps and other
Yeah.
materials from the waste stream. So there's we
It's
have a lot
weird.
to
It's weird
work on.
processed. It's weird processed fake bioplastic, like GMO, weird stuff. I don't know. It's just more things. But
Thank you for joining us today.
A
It's
few
really
more questions coming in.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'm gonna jump back to the YouTube screen. Okay. So Anna Wormuth, who came with me to New Moon, says hi and thanks for sharing your knowledge. And can you talk about sourcing from wild specimens for cultivation and what you look for when doing so?
Sourcing from wild specimens?
Yeah, like getting like a wild culture. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just like, it depends on what I'm going for, you know, like, I don't do it very often anymore, but just because like sustaining cultures in labs is a lot more work than I'm like capable of doing in my life right now. But, you know, it depends on what you're looking for. So if you're looking for a culture that's like gonna be, you know, a big fruiter, right? Or if it's growing in a weird toxic place and you're seeing that this weird polypore is growing in this like brown fields, like cool, like let's culture that because maybe it's like something that we're going to want to isolate and, you know, work with on that level, right? As a remediator, or you just like fall in love with this like gorgeous flush of turkey tail mushrooms and you just gotta have it, you know. It's just really depends, just depends on the variant, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's really just all based on what's going on. But like, you know, my Rochester reishi was like just a single mushroom growing at the base of a giant oak tree. It wasn't a big flush. It wasn't anything like you would think, like based on what you're looking at, was going to be this like all-star, amazing, you know, creature, you know, but it is. And I'm very grateful for it. So they surprise you no matter what, all the time.
Definitely. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Also, I did while I was in the Northeast recently, grab some turkey tails. This is only some of it, but we do have them out in Colorado, but I really don't personally see them very much. So I was like, while I'm there, like, I saw them everywhere. And they're so beautiful.
They're so beautiful. I love.
We have another question from our PPMS president, Ben Kinsley.
Hey.
He says, Hi, and thanks for the talk. He wasn't able to watch all of it tonight, so he's not sure if you already talked about this, and you did a little bit. The question is about potential negative effects of medicinal mushrooms, which comes up when doctors tell patients they shouldn't mix these with chemotherapy, etc. He knows that chaga is a blood thinner and should be avoided in certain circumstances. And do you know of any other issues? I guess
I
that
have not heard of chaga being a blood thinner. I know like reishi and maitake for some people can be a blood thinner, and wood ear auricularia has blood thinning, and enoki can have blood thinning properties, but I haven't heard of chaga doing that. The problem is that most doctors can't even tell you what tree grows in their yard. So they're not even going to know what mushroom is going to be good for you. And they probably didn't even ask you what you had for breakfast or what your bowel movements are a lot of times. So I question a lot of their validity on, are they even going to know if this mushroom is going to be okay for you while they're giving you some Western type of therapy? And I think that that's where we need to like reach out to like alternative, like healthcare providers and people who are willing to work on that level. Unfortunately, we live in a broken healthcare nightmare for-profit system here in these boundaries, and it's awful, and it's really hard to like get really reliable healthcare and not feel like it's gonna like put a giant hole in our pocket, right? But I do feel like there's a ton of safe mushrooms out there. Like I do feel like, whether, like turkey tail and even reishi, like, having a cup of reishi a day is not like an intensive therapy, like, okay, if we're drinking nonstop reishi tea or taking tincture every 2 hours and having this like high dosage in our bloodstream like all the time, like that's a whole different thing than like I take or I eat mushrooms a few times a week, or I'm having like low doses and just part of like, oh, I'm adding a little turkey tail to my peppermint tea at night, or like something. Like I think that we're all different and we're all going to react a little differently to different things, but I think we need to like really trust ourselves and like the way that like we eat food. We like know some food is going to make us feel like crap after we eat it versus some food is going to make us feel better, and it's like we still eat it and we survive. I'm not FDA approved, nor is anything here, but I just think that we need to like give more trust to ourselves and listen to ourselves and to like search further out, and yeah, there are definitely, certain things that we want to like caution, but generally I do feel like the mushrooms that we've talked about, like in a general, application of ingesting, handful times a week, low dose is like good. We're gonna have a great time with it. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I'm in agreement with you on that. And yeah, I think that's it for the questions.
Cool.
So this brings us to the end of our meeting. I'm very thankful for you, Olga.
Thank you.
As you said, like the internet is great for a lot of information, but I've also come across so much disinformation or questionable stuff. And like, I'm going to look up this new book by Robert Rogers with human-based studies, because also a lot of mushroom studies are done in vitro, or or like tested on like mice and things, and mice are not humans. So there's just a lot of confusing literature out there. And so it's always great to have someone who has an array of personal usage experience and other sources to bring some light to some really cool mushrooms.
Happy to do it. Mushrooms have saved my life.
Same.
Mushrooms have saved my life for sure. And I know a lot of people who have also have been in that position as well. And yeah, we just gotta listen. We just gotta listen to the message. So happy to share it and be part of it and be a conduit. And thanks for having me. And really, yeah, I'm happy to be here. And thanks for everything. Great to see you and everyone.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
Thanks, Alyssa.
Thank you. This video will be available for your viewing pleasure forevermore on YouTube. So find it, like it, share it, follow it, all the stuff, you know. And thank you everybody for joining us. And we'll see you in March. Be on the lookout for your newsletter coming soon.
See y'all in 2021.